as a wellness speaker, I speak for the other wellness speakers to say, have some wellness topics at your event, because not only are you helping the people at the event, but you're giving them something to take home that's beneficial to them and to their families, because you're going to teach them and show them, here are ways that you can be healthy and go, once you leave here, not only while you're here, but once you leave here as well.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Keynote Curators Podcast. Our guest is none other than John Ayo. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks for having me today. Look forward to chatting with you.
You're very welcome. I am as well. John, where does this podcast find you today?
Well, today I am in Rockwall, Texas. This is just a little bit northeast of Dallas. So we're excited here because the weather is less than 120 outside. So it's a good day.
Right. What is it, like 70 days consecutive over 100 or 90 or something
over
like
105. It was a bizarre summer. So we're very happy now. It's cooled down to 90, 95 or so. But, we start off with that's hot, but now it's gotten to where, oh my God, it's cooled down. So yeah. Texas.
Well, I'm glad you're inside and I'm glad it's cooling down a little bit and that your Cowboys won, if that's important to you.
It's very important. Yes.
Okay.
But it's the playoffs that matter.
That's right. That's when I watch the NFL in the playoffs. Well,
go.
John, I just want to share with you, our listeners are from all industries, all size organizations. Many of them are meeting professionals and meeting planners. And, as we prepare to embark on our conversation, keep in mind that that is who the bulk of our audience is, as well as small business owners, educators, and every industry you can think of. But our excitement about having you today, and what I mean is me and our listeners, is that, you have a particular viewpoint and a particular type of education that everybody can benefit with. So while we might think that a lot of the topics and areas of interest that are most important to you and near and dear to your heart, and quite frankly, are your core virtue of well-being and being strong of mind and strong of spirit, it is trending. There is an uptick. So it's exciting to have you bring us your knowledge and your experience as a naturopath, but also having that unique blend of working and having a career in corporate America. So if I say both sides of the coin, you've had your foot in both worlds and you're able to draw from the experience of, let's call it, the messes and stresses of everyday life, but then really your training and your education on your commitment to people being healthy, being optimal in their work and in their personal life. So I just wanted to give you a big, exciting welcome to our podcast today.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Seth. And that is kind of one of the different things that makes me unique here, is the ability to walk not only in those two worlds of corporate and as a natural health doctor, but I found myself after many, many years in sales at IBM, I found myself becoming something called a class manager. I was running a sales class and I had like 80 to 150 students, and I was going to hotels and I was reserving conference rooms and food and buffets and managing this class. And I was a class manager. Little did I know that that's kind of what a meeting professional does. So I was a meeting professional and I traveled with this class over 26 countries. So the things that I'm speaking about are from personal experience, having done it the hard way.
And you've fallen down and you've made the mistakes. And that's why I'm excited. For example, John, I just returned from Hong Kong. Now, we're both mildly educated gentlemen here. We know it's on the other side of the world. In fact, You cross the international timeline. So let's just get right into the heart of the matter. If you're going to Hong Kong, whether you're delivering one of your keynotes or you're doing your education and your training, or meeting planners that use you as a resource and reach out to you to get guidance on how to stay healthy and well in their demanding job, what are some of the things that you might recommend people to consider? Not might. What would you recommend that people consider on a trip like that, where you have to work, you have to be up, you have to be sharp, you have to be aware and really present?
Well, we're going to have to put that question into a bunch of different parts because there's a lot of pieces, and that's pretty much like the whole book that talks about all of those things. So,
oh no, I got it all in one question.
You got it all in one question. So we might have to break that down a little bit.
Let's break it down.
Step one would be jet lag, which for those of you that have never had it, you don't care about this. None of this stuff matters that I'm talking about unless it's happened to you. So if you've experienced jet lag, it can be absolutely debilitating. Bad enough if you save up your whole life to go to the European vacation and you get there and you're sick and jet lag, that's not good. So my very first international class that I ever did, I found myself laying on the floor of a conference room next to the big room with 85 students in it, laying there looking at the ceiling. I'm disoriented, I'm exhausted, I'm sleepy, I'm wide awake. It was in Johannesburg, South Africa. So, a flip of the world. And I just had no idea what hit me with this jet lag. So one of the biggest things you need to realize, or our folks need to realize, is it's hydration number one. Yeah. Water, water, water. It's not just slogging down water. So when I first started speaking, I spoke at IMEX in Vegas. And, it's very dry because it's in the desert. And so you got people there that are drinking water and going to the bathroom. So you're drinking and peeing, and it's like a flash flood. There's nothing getting absorbed, and you're constantly dehydrated. So when you get on a plane, you got to realize that is incredibly dehydrating on that airplane.
Yeah.
If you took a washcloth, wet washcloth, put it on the plane, hour and 15 minutes later, it's dry. It's just sucking water out of you. So one of the things that I'm known for is when you get a bottle of water at the airport, once you get through security, put in about a tablespoon of chia seeds, CHIA, chia seeds.
Mhm.
And those things get in there, they kind of, grow. And it takes about 20 minutes or so. But what those things do, it gives you, some omega-3s and some other goodies. But what it does is it converts that water into something called structured water. So we know three forms of water. We got, solid, liquid, and gas, but there's a fourth form called structured water. That's what's inside the cell. That's what hydrates you. So if you'll drink that on the plane, you're looking at about 8 ounces per hour of flight. Drinking that water throughout your flight. So before you get on the plane, when you land. And
John, how much chia seed should you put in there?
so you're looking at about a tablespoon for a typical bottle of water. For some people,
And you drink them right down with the water, or do they
do.
kind of sediment at the bottom?
No, they get in there and they swell up, and
Mhm.
it's a texture thing. So for people that have texture problems, you're not gonna be able to do many, but that's okay. Do what you can tolerate. For others, they love it, they drink it, they chew it.
Right.
Just get that in there. It just helps with hydration. So that is the number one thing with jet lag is hydration. And I've got about 10 of them, but I'm going to talk about the biggest ones. The other one that is important is when you get on a plane. So whenever I would fly to Europe, we'd leave here about 7 p.m. and my flight would get in at 7 a.m., about a
Sure.
5-6 hour time zone difference. So as soon as you step on that plane, you immediately put yourself into the time zone that you're going to. So when I get on that plane, it's now 1 a.m. I know it's 7 here in Dallas, but it's 1 a.m. And so I set my body clock, and there's things that you can do to set your body clock energetically, tapping points and things like that. But at least in your mind, don't look back. Oh, I wonder what the kids and the wife are doing. Can't look back. It is.
Yeah,
this
I
time.
always marvel, even domestically from one coast to the other.
Mhm.
People are like, well, it should be dinner time, but it's early in the afternoon. And the calculation that they do, these people that I overhear, it makes me exhausted just listening to, like, are they here? Are they there? What's the difference? What meal
Right.
is it? And I'm just like, it tires me out just listening to that.
Exactly. Well, people play those games and they go, well, back home it's this time, so I'm going to eat. So what would you do at 1 a.m.? Are you going to be eating dinner? Probably not. And that's hard, if you're on a plane, but you got to get into that time zone as quickly as you can. And you want to, when you get to your time zone, stay awake. So if you land at 7 a.m., if you can take a nap and get up by 10 a.m., okay, you can do it. Otherwise, you
Right.
got to power through. Stay awake till 9 p.m., 2 nights, if you're going to be there for a while. So that's a biggie. Now, here's another one that's interesting, Seth. Have you ever heard of something called earthing?
How do you spell it?
Earthing, well, like the earth,
Oh,
EARTH.
earthing.
Earthing.
No, I'd like to think I have, but it doesn't sound familiar.
Well, you may have, or grounding.
Yeah.
I have a slide in my presentation that says, my two sponsors, they don't pay a lot, the sun and the earth, but they do support us. And we have done a pretty bad job or a good job of disconnecting ourselves from this planet. And unfortunately, we're paying the price for that. One of the key things, and basically what it is getting bare feet on the earth. So the bottom of your feet have a bazillion connections into your body energetically and a bunch of other ways. So when you land at your destination, if you'll get bare feet on the earth for like 20 minutes. It will help to dump a bunch of static electricity from the plane, and it'll help stabilize you into that time zone that you're in. So good is getting on some earth. Better is wet earth. Best is the ocean, if you can get there. So it just helps lock you in and put you there. So it's a great.
Are you saying earth like your hotel room floor, or going out to the garden somewhere and trying to actually touch grass or soil?
Grass and soil, if you can get there.
Grass and
There's
soil.
places, like when you go to Tokyo or New York City, there's not a lot of grass and soil to be found sometimes. You got to find the park, and you just have to go find that little area and sit there. Now, there are other things you can do for those situations and at home. So as I'm sitting here talking to you, I have my feet on a grounding pad on the second floor of my house, but there's this little pad that you can buy on Amazon that you plug into that third prong in your outlet, and it connects you and grounds you to the earth. So I'm sitting here with my feet grounded.
So John, meeting professionals are pulled in a million different directions. So what comes along with it is a high level of stress. How do you reduce those stressors?
Well, it's kind of like your initial question. There's not one thing. I wish there was, but there's a bunch of little things. And the more of them that you'll do, the more likely you are to reduce that stress little by little. Here's one of the challenges we have, Seth, and this is a theme throughout all of this, is how do I reduce stressors, especially when I'm traveling? So you got stress, and then you got traveling stress, which takes you to the limits. So we have to look at things like earthing, which reduces your stress. Because when you're standing there on the planet, it actually connects you into the heartbeat of the earth that's called the Schumann frequency that happens to, it's like a metronome, and it happens to that frequency that it's at, calms you down. So when you're standing there, it's actually calming you down by just being there, especially like, when you go to the beach or in the ocean, you just feel calm. So how do we ground? How do we do that? So I've been to events where they have lunch cards come up, and the attendees will go out at lunch and they'll get barefoot on the grass and go to the different carts and get their food. So if there's ways that you can pull that into your event, that's one sneaky way to get people grounded that will help in so many ways. So here's a big one though, Seth, that I want to talk about for sure. And that is one of the biggest stressors that you will never see. And that is the electromagnetic fields. So things like our cell phones, Wi-Fi, all the stuff, they just zap us. It zaps our energy field, and people don't even realize it. It's incredibly stressful. One of the best things you can do for that is feet on the ground, because it goes right through you and into the earth. So it's tricky to do at times, but again, for so many reasons.
How have you seen that done? Have people actually literally bought in, like, I'm thinking of blocks of turf or like a putting green where people can just be barefoot?
Well, you got to go outside. You got to get there. So if you happen to be on a coast, and a lot of times the meeting professionals will plan events there for other reasons, figure out how sneaky way to get people out to the beach, to get them to go walk outside get on the grass and encourage them to do that. Because here's the other thing that goes with stress. As stress goes up, our immunity goes down. So the higher stress you have, the more likely you are to get sick. You combine that with getting in an event with a lot of people that may not be feeling well, and you can find yourself in a tough situation. So that's another reason why we've got to work on this. So earthing is a huge deal. Hydration is absolutely foundational. The other one that's important, and really, let me put them in order for you, because here's the priority, is we can go for a few minutes without air. We can go for a week or so without food, right? Water, a couple days. Right. So you put them in priority order. Air is first, which means, we're breathing. But, when you're stressed, you're not breathing very well. You're breathing all up in your chest. So how can we take deep breaths? How can you put your hand on your stomach or below and take a deep breath so that only your hands move? Chest doesn't move at all. When I do presentations for the audience and I'm asking them, okay, everybody take a deep breath. See the shoulders come up, because everybody breathes up here. Got to breathe down here. So that breathing is foundational. And then, of course, the water. And, we'll talk a little bit about the food thing. But those are those three really big ones, is that earthing, getting on the ground, drinking that water, right? And the breathing.
Do you see from your perspective, because stress is a driver of so many things that impact us operating in an efficient, optimal, and really joyful way. Do you see a connection between stress and either employee retention or engagement?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's hard for any of us to be effective at our job if we are stressed, because when you're stressed, your body goes into this fight or flight mode, right? You may have heard about the two types of the nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is the fight or flight place, and the parasympathetic is the rest and digest part. Unfortunately, we live here all the time, 24/7 stress. We're connected to all our devices and work. And the more stressed you are, when you get stressed, your body takes all of its energy and puts it out to your hands and your feet so you can run or fight. Not a lot left for creative thinking and doing your job, let alone digesting food and having babies. And so you look at all of these different impacts of stress, it's huge. And I wish I had an easy answer again for all this, because the
Right.
world today is just so stressful for everybody, because it just is over the
Yeah.
last years for everybody.
Yeah. And there's no magic bullet. What I'm hearing is it's all these pieces together. And, as meeting professionals, if we can get to an event with our mind in a position where we're healthy, we're feeling strong, we're not feeling the immune system being a little bit deficient or weak, or hydration, or, our clarity in our mind to make good decisions and to be able to lead teams and communicate clearly. If we can execute some type of well-being plan and put yourself in a position where you not hit the ground running, let's say, but you arrive in a position to be optimal and successful, then you're using this well-being idea in an effective way that kind of is deployed and impacts your entire group, attendees, and anybody else related to the event.
Absolutely. Well, there's the things we can control, and then there's the things that happen to us. And so, like you said, if you can have a plan and at least come out with something, and then as things change and evolve, of course, as meeting professionals, we know that the bacon is cold and the room is hot and the projector bulb just exploded. That really happened to me. Actually, it happened when I was in Buenos Aires.
Is that
And I was
right?
on there. Yep. I was doing a class down there, and and the projector just blew up, like smoke and everything. And it was like, okay, stop. We got to get this fixed. And we had a
Yeah.
guy on a ladder fixing it. But my class
Yeah.
kept going, man, because that's what
Yeah.
we do. But, the
That's
meeting
right.
professionals hide everything, right? Oh, yeah, everything looks good in front of the
Right.
curtain. But behind the curtain, there's
Right. Right.
chaos.
Front of the house, they don't know. That's what I often tell meeting planners sometimes. If, a speaker, they prefer a certain thing, like let's say a handheld mic versus a lavalier mic. And for some reason there was a miscommunication and the preferred one wasn't there, and they're all up in arms about it. I said, the 500 or so people out there have no idea if
Right.
John prefers a handheld or a lavalier. It's
Unless I
not in
tell
their,
them,
it's
well,
unless we
I,
tell
I
them.
wanted a handheld, but Seth wouldn't give it to me unless they tell
Right.
you.
Unless it's the first thing you go out and say, you know what, I'm really uncomfortable because
Exactly.
I never use a handheld because they dropped the ball.
And then that's
That's
your last
right. I
event.
mean, that's what event planners do, meeting professionals do, is I don't know if necessarily they hide it, but they don't want anything to interrupt their attendees, their
Absolutely.
experience, their learning, their education.
Right.
So if they can keep the show going and not let a bulb in a projector blowing up kind of detour what's important, which is moving the mission forward, getting the messaging out there, getting the content, the education into the hands of those in attendance, then that if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But it can be stressful. So
Sure.
it's in those moments where, let's say, an incident happens, right? And how do we deal with those stressful moments at the event?
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
given that you're not only a speaker, but you have experience operating and executing your own events, what kind of comments or thoughts could you have about when incidents that are unpredictable do happen?
Which they do, and they will. They
And they
will.
will.
So step one is breathe. So what we talked about, I mean, really, literally, that is it. You've got to take a deep breath and close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths. Same advice for people that, oh my God, I hate speaking. Oh, I would die up there. Breathe. You got to start with breathing. So that would be number one, really, because then, you're professional, you know what to do, you know how to handle things. It's just, do you have the capacity to do it without panicking? And you're going to panic if you're not breathing because you're not getting enough oxygen. So that is by far the biggest thing that we can do. And again, planning ahead of time as much as you can, being prepared, all those different things, and having A, B, and C plans. And, you have the projector bulb in your bag and you bring extra microphones and batteries and all that stuff. So having done classes all over the world, I really appreciate my AV people that speak English because it's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
And I found, again, I was just in Hong Kong, which used to be a British territory, British colony, and everybody speaks English there. But
Hmm.
the new generations with the internet and all the social media apps and everything, English is just so prevalent.
Hmm.
The basics get through. But I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about tech. Society, our dependence on digital devices is astonishing. It leaves me almost speechless, which is hard to do. You know,
Yeah.
they have had an effect, positive, but a very strong adverse effect. So these digital devices that dominate society have had an adverse effect on us as we operate in our day to day. And meeting professionals that require the use of these devices and applications ongoingly need to be aware of its impact. So you want to be as optimal and as efficient as you can when you're utilizing these, especially while the event is going on, because you need to be present. You need to be aware. Pardon the metaphor. You need to read the room and not your screen so that you can get a real time lay of the land. And that's going to have you use the apps and the digital devices as a tool, as opposed to the ends to the means. So, John, with its adverse effect on the physical and mental health, that is the digital devices, there's anxiety, there's sleep issues, even depression. What are your thoughts on, among many things, the relationship with screen time, the toxic relationship with social media, and well-being? And I know I threw in like 8 questions again in
You
one
did.
question. So break them down as you usually do.
Well, I'll give you a couple of things. So first off is find a device for your phone that will help remediate the waves. Don't ever put the thing in your pocket for guys. For us, it's harder. For the women, they put it in their purse. They usually don't have it on them, but I do see women that put it in their under their bra, which is not a good thing. You do not want this thing next to your body at all. Use speakerphone whenever you can. So whenever I talk, I usually just put it on speakerphone and have it a little bit from my mouth. So keep it away from your body whenever you can. Get some kind of device to remediate it to help protect you. And when you get to your room, one of the things I help a whole segment on is talking about how to sleep in a hotel room. Get the electronics away from you, especially from your head. So unplug the clock, get the phone, get all that stuff away. And for some people, they're like, well, I sleep on my phone, under my pillow or near me. Get that thing away from you. Put it in airplane mode 6 feet away. So cell phone, let's start with that one because it's such a big deal, is
Great.
just be very aware of what it's doing to you. And it's definitely sucking energy out of you, unfortunately. So that's the first one. The next thing, again, grounding is just so key. It's so important. Can't overemphasize that one because it helps get this stuff out of your body. So you can go on the internet and find videos that show with meters, somebody talking on their phone and the meters are connected to their body versus when they put their foot on a grounding pad or step outside, it just goes to zero. So that's a big deal as well. The
John, what
Wi-Fi.
is that device that you showed on the back of your phone? Is
Well, I've
yellow?
got several, but there are a bunch of different ones out there. I found some that I like and recommend, but I don't have any links to anything at the moment
Okay.
to do that. People can email me if they want.
What are they called?
Remediation devices. Yeah.
Remediation
Cell
devices.
phone
Got it.
remediation. Yes. What you're doing is taking the chaotic waves coming out and you're harmonizing them to be biocompatible with your body because they still have to work. You can't put a device on that would change or protect the waves or they wouldn't work. So it helps. But again, it's not just like so many things that we do. It's just another step to
Right.
help you with things like
No
that.
magic bullet.
No magic bullet. The screens, you got to look at that light coming in. So one of the things that's important for us is that when we get outside, and another part of back to the jet lag thing is when you land to your destination at noon, look up at that sun and just tell your body it's noon. So you're sinking in. When we look at the sun, the rays go into our eyes, into our brain, hits the pineal gland in the back of the brain, and it fills up the tank with melatonin. That's where the beginning of sleep starts, is getting the melatonin, which is not only in the pineal, but throughout the cells of your body. And then at night, when you're in your hotel room and it gets dark, your body releases it and that helps you to sleep. So those first night or two in the hotel is usually pretty tricky and people don't sleep well. And that's because you're on high alert from a stress perspective. So make the room as homey as you can in all ways. The things you see and smell and hear and all of that to help you. If you have remediation devices for Wi-Fi, a lot of hotel rooms now have a router in the room, which gives you
Yeah.
great signals. But again, it's
Right.
right there and it's just blasting you and your brain's on high alert. Make that room dark, right? And we've all been through the iterations of, that curtain that just never closes all the way.
Yeah.
And so you can
Yeah.
go get the hanger out of the closet with the 2 hooks and hook it and that'll close it. Put your towel under the door, or you just get a sleep mask, which is what I do now, and avoid that white noise, machines, and all that stuff. But the key thing of avoiding the technology and looking at screens an hour or so before bedtime, because that blue light filters help, and there's settings on devices, but there's just again so many little things here that you can do. Using essential oils can be helpful, and just a bunch.
Yep. I've been doing this podcast now for over 2 years, and we have so many guests and so many different topics. And, I can't say this any more authentically that this is something that is so near and dear to my heart. I travel between 225 to 300,000 miles a year, not during COVID, and it's picked up.
Mhm.
And the first thing I'm trying to do is mitigate and say, is it a hell yes that it's a trip that I have to do? Number one, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
if it is a hell yes, where do I go from there? Not only preparing to mitigate jet lag and all these things that you and I have talked about, but while I'm traveling, I do recordings to provide as a resource for not only meeting professionals, but small business owners and people that travel a lot.
Mhm.
And I recently did one, John, about how to arrive at a hotel room.
Yeah.
And my version of it was, I didn't have the solid foundation, the medical background that you do, and all the hours and years of experience, all the work that you've done. But the simple broad strokes were: don't turn the TV on, don't connect to the internet right away, unpack, so get
Mhm.
yourself sorted out, be aware of what your commitments are and what your schedule is, so that
Yep.
you can get, I'll use the phrase again, lay of the land. You have a sense of what the panorama is,
Mhm.
and then begin to organize from starting from what your hard commitments are to what time you're in, staying hydrated. Don't turn the TV on. And unless you absolutely have to, which sometimes you do, don't connect to the internet right away,
Right.
and get settled in as quick as possible.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
these rooms are drab. Sometimes they smell. Sometimes they're
Yeah.
missing some amenities, towels or whatever. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be stuck in the middle of your event or your conference asking for something extra, or a hanger, or an ironing board that's missing or whatever. So just funny, because I literally did one of these while I was in Hong Kong.
Right. I think that's great. Well, I wrote a whole chapter on this part of it. And the first step, and I forget this one too, is check for bed bugs. As soon as you walk in the room, check for bed bugs before you unpack. You look
Can you
behind
do
the bed.
that? Is there like a special method to do that?
Yeah. You want to look behind the headboard and look there and in the seams of the mattress. And you'll see, if you see little black droppings, you need to not unpack and need to go get another
Okay.
room right then and there,
You need
because
to abort,
you need to
eject.
abort. Exactly. And
Make
thank
sure
God
you
I've
have your,
never experienced it, but others have. And it's a
yeah.
nightmare if it happens to you, because they come home with you and it's not good. So,
Just going way back to the beginning of this, way back, going to
mm,
earlier in our conversation about, water with the chia seeds or not,
right.
I do maybe, I don't know if I overhydrate to a point of like it being dangerous, but I do find myself sometimes, not all the time, there are certain flights that I happen to be having to go to the bathroom a lot more than others.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm kind of, my behavior is pretty consistent, where I'm drinking water and trying to
Yeah.
stay hydrated. Um,
Yeah. Well, there is too much. When I first started down this path 25 years ago, of course, I overdid it, because, the way we think in the US is, if this is good, then this must be better. So if
yeah.
this much water is good, I'll drink this much. And you can overdrink. And what it does is it takes the minerals out of your body. So one of the good things to do is to just get a Ziploc with a snack bag with Celtic sea salt, and just put a couple things of sea salt in every now and then to get those minerals back in. It's important. It really is. That's a big
Could
deal.
you do the
But
sea salt with the chia seeds in
you
the
could.
water?
Yep.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it's like, ugh, it doesn't taste good. And yeah, it
Uh,
depends. All
yeah.
this is a taste good for you thing, right?
I don't discriminate. I kind of am accepting of all things that go in. I don't
I
have an issue. It
understand.
has to taste really, really bad.
No, I was
Go
going to say
ahead.
one thing I want to make sure we talk about, Seth, is the immune system part and the not getting sick part,
Yes.
because that's a big, big deal. So I remember I was doing back-to-back classes in Buenos Aires and Lima, and I'm gone for, I don't know, 17 days. Day 3, I start feeling the scratchy throat, and it's like, oh no, this can't happen. So what do? Well, step 1 is you've got to rest wherever you can. So normally I'm an advocate of take the stairs to your room, and don't take the little moving escalators and walkways in the airport, and don't take the Ubers, walk wherever you can, all that kind of stuff, right? But you got to rest is step 1. The other thing, and here's what's really important, is you must eliminate sugar, dairy, and wheat. Those 3 things and the foods that they're in will knock down your immune system dramatically. So if you drink a half a can of soda, it'll knock down your immune system by 50% for like 8 hours. So
Wow.
you're trying to get well, you start feeling like you're sick and you go eat a pizza with a Coke, it's going to just make it way, way worse. So sugar, dairy, and wheat. Unfortunately, it's in a lot. So
Yeah.
that's the things to consider when you're planning an event, is to look at those foods. And I know that the sugary stuff, people like them and maybe they cost less and all, as opposed to the higher end green smoothies and some other things. But it's important to put the things out there for your snack breaks that are nutritious for your guests. You're going to have people fight some of them, but a lot of people find things that are somewhere in the middle. And again, they may cost more, but it's going to help you to have your attendees stay healthy. So
Yeah.
focus on eliminating sugar, dairy, and wheat for them as well, and putting in things that boost their immune system, like the herbals, like garlic and curcumin and seasonings. So when you talk to your chef, can we mix up dishes that have that in there? And people are like, oh, this tastes great, but they don't realize how much it's helping them as well
Yeah.
from a health perspective.
A lot of days at these events for your attendees can be long. They can be stressful. They want to learn, they want to get the most out of it. And as a meeting professional and as an event planner and a conference planner, think about how to feed and provide the right nutrition so that they can get the optimal experience.
Yep.
The sweet stuff is nice, it's short term. Have as an option not only the fruits, whether it's a protein shake or a green shake or some type of other alternative that lets the attendees provide some nutrition and make them healthier during your event so that their immune system is strong, their mind is clear, and they're getting the most out of the whole event that you planned and spent so much time on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great point, Seth. Absolutely. I completely agree. And the people that are sponsoring the event, the ones that are putting this thing on, that's the last thing they want, is for people, especially to fly in and spend all this money, have people fly in and get sick when they're there. And where's everybody? Half the room is sick. They're in their rooms, with stuff. It's not a good thing, obviously. So I think that's a great idea. And it is worth that little bit of extra money to go the extra mile and get that.
It is, so, and that impacts, business travelers getting sick while they're on business. It's also preventative because they have to return home and they have to plug into their home life, whether it's children or getting back to the office or both. So it's not just while they're at the event, it's also, the continuation. This is, again, there's no magic bullet. It's an ongoing mindset.
Exactly. Well, and of course, as a wellness speaker, I speak for the other wellness speakers to say, have some wellness topics at your event, because not only are you helping the people at the event, but you're giving them something to take home that's beneficial to them and to their families, because you're going to teach them and show them, here are ways that you can be healthy and go, once you leave here, not only while you're here, but once you leave here as well.
And I'm seeing it, and I think you do too. I'm seeing those and and again, I hate to use the word trend, but you are seeing agendas being, and even some meditation moments in the morning, yoga classes, mental health, taking the stigma and the taboo out of it and having it be a conversation that's available. These are all things that you're seeing. Sleep. I've seen a lot of sessions on sleep itself, which you touch on, I know in the book, and you've touched on in our podcast here. all these areas, John, they can be found in your book, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I tried to map it out. And that's exactly what I did is I sat down and people are like, who are you to write a book? I'm like, well, I write a lot of emails. How hard can it be? So I wrote down, chronologically from before your trip. And then what do you do going to the airport? And I just kind of wrote chronologically throughout a business trip. What are some things that you might do to stay healthy, and just sharing my best ideas and little tidbits, like, as an example, finding filtered water, Seth. Where you can always find filtered water in a hotel? Secret
No.
place, right, is in the workout room. Every
Yeah.
hotel in the world has a workout
Yeah.
room. And even if you can't get water in the hotel, they don't have it. It's not available. You got to pay $50 for a bottle. Always go to that workout room. So when
Yeah.
you get on, when you get through security, make sure you have your own bottle, plastic bottle with you, put your chia seeds in it, carry that thing with you for the whole trip. And then you can just go down to the workout room and fill it up.
And no, that is a good point. That's something that I take advantage of, but not consistently.
The workout room. Yeah, that's a tough one
Well, no, the
because,
water. I mean, I
the water.
I do the workout, but as far as replenishing or stocking up, if you will, right?
Good for you. Well, I
Yeah.
try to, but rarely do I, because if I'm at the event and I haven't seen you in a while, do I want to have breakfast with Seth or go work out? I'm going to have breakfast with you. I'm going to do relationships, prioritizing. You
Sure.
can always get to
Sure.
that little room. And if you can get there,
Yeah,
great, but don't feel guilty. There's
that's
so many
right.
options to exercise, even especially as a meeting planner. You got to walk around. These events are so huge. You're walking miles. So
Yeah.
hydration, eating the right things, right? And again, focusing on, let me just give you a couple tidbits on that, because the food combining thing is something some people are aware of, but maybe not. Certain foods go together better than others. So what you want to do is eat things that are easy for your digestive system. Fruit's one of the easiest things. It's practically water, right? And fructose. So if I'm going to eat breakfast, eat your fruit first because it goes through faster, then eat your bacon and eggs and other things. If you do it the reverse and you eat the fruit last, everything else is going down slow. The fruit ferments, gas, and assorted problems. Similarly, when you're eating things like in Argentina, I love to go over Puerto Madero and get
Yep.
the steak there. Oh my God,
Yep.
it's the best steak ever, right? And they
Yeah.
always have potatoes. Problem
It
is,
is.
those two things are a digestive nightmare, because when you eat steak, your body makes hydrochloric acid to try and digest it, and the potatoes absorb all the hydrochloric acid. So then you're sitting there fighting it in a hotel room all night long, and that's not good. So eat your steak with your veggies and try and not mix starches with your meats. It's just a
Gotcha.
thought. But that
Gotcha.
steak is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. You're getting me hungry right now. Well, John, we're going to shift gears again. We're going to go into one of my favorite parts of every podcast. Is called 20 questions. It's the spirit of 20 questions. It's not technically 20 questions. The idea is rapid fire. We don't need to sit you down on Freud's couch and get a whole background history of an explanation as to what your answers are, but just kind of what comes to mind, a little bit of word association. Are you ready?
I'm ready to go, Seth.
All righty. What's your favorite ice cream? Chocolate or vanilla?
Lucky Road. Oh, but
I
I
like it.
like both. Yeah.
What's the most interesting thing about you that we might not have learned from reading your resume?
Well, I got my black belt in Aikido. I went and studied martial arts for 15 years, and
Oh,
that took a long time, and it's kind of in the past for the moment.
wow, that's quite an accomplishment.
Thank
What's the
you.
next place to visit on your bucket list?
I'd love to go back to New Zealand because I didn't get a chance
Mm,
to see as much of it as I'd like.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
What is the last book you read?
The last book I read was, gosh, I forgot the name of it, but it was a fiction book that my wife said, you need to read this. And so I read it, but I
Okay.
forgot what it's called. I'll think of it in a minute.
Okay. Streaming, movies, cinema. What's the last thing you've seen that's touched you or moved you?
Well, unfortunately or fortunately, I have started to tune into the world of politics, which is a dangerous thing. So I'm reading and watching way too much on both sides to form opinions. So I
Okay.
haven't seen a lot of movies lately, sadly.
Gotcha.
Haven't. Yeah.
Looking back at your 20-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself?
You really have a lot less control than you think. Yeah.
What's the
Accept it.
happiest part of your daily routine?
Drinking coffee in the morning and reading my inspirational things.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What does mindfulness mean for you?
It's the ability to tap into peace and acceptance, regardless of what's going on around you.
If you could be anywhere right now, where would it be?
Kauai. I love Kauai.
Good
Beautiful there.
choice.
My favorite, people go, hey, I want to take you to lunch. I'm like, yeah, let's go to the beach house in Kauai. That's my favorite place. Have you ever been there?
I haven't.
Oh,
I
it's
haven't.
amazing.
I
Amazing
got to
place.
add that to the list.
Put it on the list.
All righty. And finally, what are 1, 2, 3 things that you're grateful for?
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for my health every day. I can't tell you. I'm grateful for the people, the relationship in my life, and the amazing abundance that surrounds me and continues to surround me. And that one's rehearsed because I do it at least 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Right.
It's been a very, very challenging few years. And I'll tell you, even though you didn't ask, I'm going to give you a couple things to focus on for the people listening, especially those that are going through traumatic events in their lives. And there are a lot still doing that. It's okay not to be okay. Step one is to focus on this half day. For me, people go, just day at a time, John. I can't do a day at a time. So I'd learn to do a half day at a time. Half day at a time. 2 is trust it, just trust and faith. And 3 is what can you be grateful for? Because got to focus on that. What you focus on is what it spans.
Well, it doesn't sound rehearsed, John. It sounds like it's really woven into you and you inhabit it. Or it inhabits you or both. It definitely resonated with me. We're at the end of our time together. I do this with our guests. I just thank you all for whatever you need to organize in your day to be with us, whether you had to shift some things around or carve out some time to really be with us and distill and distinguish what's important for meeting professionals and how we can make a difference in their health and their wellness and their well-being and have them be effective, making a difference in people's lives, bringing incredible education to them, dare I say, transformative experiences. So thank you for doing your part with the Keynote curators in making that contribution. And I know it's going to be a lasting difference that's going to have a big impact. So just thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Seth. I appreciate you and what you do as well to promote the different speakers out there and get the different messages out to the people in the audience, because it is about making a difference. When you've been through challenges and difficulties in your life and you learn things, you just want to share with others, because what else can you do? So my tagline is, I lived it so you don't have to.
That's a good one. I think on that note, we'll say goodbye. Until next time, John, thank you so much, and be healthy and be well.
Thank you. Travel well.
Thank you. Thanks for spending time with us today. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to our content. We'll keep bringing you the latest industry news and insights. Don't forget to follow us on social media so you never miss an update. And if you're looking for a keynote speaker for your next event, reach out to us directly or visit our website at thekeynotecurators.com.